Welcome back, I'm Francis Shui. I recently completed testing of 11 100% cotton watercolor papers. If you haven't seen them, go check out these two videos where I basically did some simple tests on 11 different papers where I used some techniques like wet on dry and wet on wet in a couple of squares on each of the papers. Those are simple tests. They weren't meant to be full-on tests of how the entire paper performs with a full painting, but I do plan on showing deeper dives into how those papers perform with fuller painting sessions. I did these tests because I've been a longtime fan of Arches, and it's my favorite cold press 100% cotton paper, but it can be expensive, and so I'm definitely still on the lookout for other alternatives, cheaper alternatives. I'm aware that there's a range of prices out there now and so many different brands of 100% cotton papers. So I rounded up 11 or 10 other brands besides Arches to really see if I could find one that I felt like I could rely on. And it definitely opened my eyes, because I can definitely tell that there are certain papers that will suit me well for other experiences like plein air painting or just as a backup for experimentation, etc. So stay tuned for deeper dives on how each of those papers performed on a fuller painting session. Before we get on to the actual papers, if you're new to watercolor painting or if you're just coming back from a long absence to watercolor painting, I have a free essential watercolor supplies starter list that I created that you can download. Just download it by clicking on the QR code here, and basically you can see that document, which is a basic listing of supplies that I think are crucial for starting out, others that are not so crucial, and you can decide from there. All right, let's move on to the actual papers. The first paper here is the Leyton watercolor block, and this paper is made in China. It's sized with gelatin, and that means it's not vegan, and that's from the Australian distributor's website. It basically will cost 90 cents per sheet, and the interesting thing about this block is that this paper, compared to all the other papers that I looked at, is actually a little thicker. It's 160 pounds at 350 GSM, and I've seen several people praise this paper because it lays flat and is less likely to buckle when you're painting. So the slightly heavier weight to it, the thickness of it, is helpful in that respect. Moving on, the next paper is Fuumuui, and this watercolor block is also made in China. They don't say whether it's sized internally or externally or both, but they did confirm with me that it's vegan sized, and I confirmed that directly with the marketing team there. It comes out to $1 per sheet. I have used this in a couple of paintings since, and stay tuned for a deeper dive into how this performed in a fuller painting session. Next up is Flunbrato. This is also a brand out of China. It's internally and externally sized. It is vegan. They did confirm that with me, so it's gelatin free, and it comes out to about $1.04 per sheet. It does come with this nice faux leather cover and this strap, which makes it easy to bring around with you to at the outside if you wanted to paint outside. It's stylish, and it's a nice format for painting plein air. Next up is Meeden, and this is also out of China, and it's both internally and externally sized, and it is vegan. I confirmed that from their website. It will cost about $1.15 per sheet. Just a word on the prices. These are the best available prices I could see from Amazon and from various other online retailers. You might be able to find it cheaper depending on where you look or depending on where you are. So just take the prices with a grain of salt, but these are current for me as of today, and based on the accessibility that I have, to various retailers. This paper has performed well. I tested it in my Alaskan cruise video, and I did paint on it again afterwards, and stay tuned for another deep dive in how this performs in a full-on painting session. The next paper is the Hahnemühle, and this is paper out of Germany, and they don't say whether it's internally and or externally sized, but they proudly claim it's vegan. They say that they're the first manufacturer to produce exclusively vegan papers in the world. And this comes out to about $1.43 per sheet. I haven't used it yet on a full-size painting, but I will, and stay tuned for a deep dive on that. Next up is Baohong, and this is Baohong artist paper. It's also out of China. It's internally and externally sized. It's not vegan, and that's confirmed via the Jackson's website. It comes out to $1.45 per sheet. As I mentioned before, this is probably on the lower end of my list of papers that I liked. The texture is just too rough for me. This is the artist version. I have heard that the other version out there, the Academy, is probably more to my liking. I also understand that there's a relationship between that Academy paper and Meeden. It's possibly rebranded as Meeden's paper, but this texture on this paper is just a little too rough for me. I think that's my own personal bias. My preference is to have it smoother so that I can have the option to do finer detail if needed. So there's that. The next one is Saunders Waterford, and this paper is manufactured in England at St. Cuthbert's Mill. It's gelatin sized on the surface, so obviously not vegan. They say it's bovine gelatin. It's a byproduct of the meat industry. It comes out to $1.75 per sheet. I haven't yet done a full-size painting on this yet, but I will, so stay tuned for a deep dive there. The next paper is Leyton's Stonehenge Aqua. I did show this in my previous test, and I also painted on it during my Alaskan cruise. It's not clear exactly where it's made. I know that Leyton, they use mills all around the world, but this one likely is made in the USA, but hopefully I'll get some confirmation from them at some point. It is internally and externally sized. It's vegan, and that's confirmed through their website. It comes out to about $2.07 per sheet. I did like how this performed. I like the texture, the smoothness of it, and the only drawback I would say was that I found during my painting, especially the painting during my Alaskan cruise, was that the paper surface seems very soft and fragile, and I had experienced this before with Leyton's black paper that I've used with gouache. Basically, if you rub at it too much, it's liable to tear, and if you use any tape on it or masking fluid, it will likely come off. So that's one drawback, but if you don't do those techniques, that's totally fine. I think the smooth texture of this paper appeals to me overall, and I like the appearance of the painting. I'll do another deep dive showing some painting sessions on this as well. The next paper we have is Winsor & Newton Professional, and this paper is created in Italy, and it's internally and externally sized. I corresponded with their customer service to ask about the vegan or non-vegan status. They said they couldn't claim vegan status, but that animal ingredients are not intentionally added to the sizing for this paper. So we can't say that this is vegan. This comes out to about $2.13 per sheet. I haven't yet done a full painting on this, but stay tuned for a deep dive on that. Second to last, we have the Fabriano Artistico paper. This is made in Italy. It's sized on the surface. It is vegan. They explicitly state in their materials that it's vegan friendly, and it comes out to $2.73 per sheet. I did paint on this during my Alaskan cruise video. I did like the way it looked. I have to do a little bit more tests on it, so stay tuned for some deep dives on this paper. Last, we have Arsh paper. This is a 7x10 water block, and I've mentioned this several times in my videos. I have used this. I'm a longtime user of Arch paper. I love the way the paint goes on. I like the smooth texture, and I just like the way it handles various techniques like wet on wet washes and the diffusion you can get on this paper. So this will probably remain my favorite, but there are other brands that I've listed that I'm starting to like maybe just as much. And I can see relying on them for experimentation or as backups, especially when portability is key. So those are the 11 papers, 100% cotton watercolor papers that I've tested over the last couple of videos that I put out. You can see how they performed in those videos. I am going to follow this up with deeper dives into each of the papers and show how they work in a fuller painting session, not just painting in squares. If you're new to watercolor, again, I have an essential watercolor supplies list that you can download. You can click on the QR code here, or just click on the link in the description below. I'm Francis Shui. I'm an artist based here in New York City. I love sharing tips and tricks about watercolor painting. If you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to see upcoming videos. Until the next time, go and paint.